Welcome back, everybody. It is May of 2024, and this is episode 65 of What is on My Desk. So we're back for another one of my monthly What is on My Desk updates. I have quite a bit of progress to show you. Those kits I was working on before, 3 of the 4 are done. The Mosquito and the 2 F82s are completed. So just in a few seconds here, we'll swing over. We'll take a look at the kind of overview of the completion of those kits, what they look like, the good, the bad, the ugly. I'll introduce the next 3 kits I'll be working on. The 4th kit is still that Lincoln, which I've been poking away at. And then we'll wrap it up with a quick look at kind of where I got to in the past couple of days on those new kits. Not a lot of progress, but some progress nonetheless. And that's about it. No new products, nothing else to show you. We'll just take a look at the big, massive update I have on my models. And on that note, let's get swung over. And my name is Sean, and this is Sean's Aviation. So as mentioned in the intro, I have finished 3 of those 4 kits I was working on, the 2 F82s and the Mosquito. The Lancaster Lincoln conversion was always going to be a longer term project, and I plan to work or hopefully get that finished with the next round of kits that I'll be starting, which I will introduce to you right after this. So we'll start with the Mosquito as it is sitting here right in front of me. So it is, as I said, it's completed. It went together super easy. No complaints, typical Tamiya shake and bake kit. It falls together. You probably could knock one of these out in a few days, really, if you just focused on it. If I did nothing for a day or two but just work on this kit, it would not take long at all to complete. It's such an easy kit to build. It goes together so easily. I'm so very happy with these kits. So it's going to look really good on the shelf beside the glass-nosed bomber version I have, and see that comparison of the 2 sitting side by side. Otherwise, it's super easy. I like it. I'm really getting a good collection of night fighters as well over there. I've got the, what do I have now? I've got a P-38 night fighter. I've got a P-61. I've got the A-26 Korean night intruder. I've now got the Mosquito night fighter. I've got the F-82 night fighter. I've got the HE-219. I've got an ME-110 night fighter. Yeah. I've built up a really good collection of kind of night fighter kits. Yeah, plus for the F-82 right here. So anyways, it's coming right along. I'm pretty happy with it. So that's that. As always, if you have any questions, concerns, the time lapse for this should be out in the next month or so. So keep an eye out for that. If you do want to watch that, the F-82 time lapses won't be too far behind. So those are, well, that's that. While we're on the night fighter theme, let's take a look at the F-82G. Again, it's complete. It looks good. Caracal decals, squadron vacuum form canopy. I remember the name of it. Kellic. 3D decals for the instrument panels and cockpits and the seat belts. Not as happy with the seat belts as I thought I would be, but it is what it is. And I also have the 3D printed radar dome and exhaust stacks. So it's got a bit of aftermarket into it to make it a night fighter. If you've seen the time lapse, or if you plan to watch the time lapse, it's going to be a bit of a repeat of what I've said in there. I do not recommend this kit. It's a pain to build, very little positive fit. All the pieces kind of float. It takes a lot of effort to line everything up properly. It's not an easy build. If you have the skill to build one of these, you might as well buy the Models Vit kit and build it because it's a better kit. If you don't have the skill to build one of these, then again, just invest in the Models Vit kit because it's easier to build. The only reason that I would recommend this is that it's inexpensive, but you pay less for the kit, but then in the effort it takes you to make the kit look good, it's easier just to buy the Models Vit. When this was the only option out there, which it was when I purchased these, I have, like I said, 3 of them. 2 I've built, 1 is still in the stash. When these came out, it was the only game in town, and that's why I bought them, because I got a really good deal on them, and they are the only game in town, and I really wanted an F-82. And of course, in the ensuing years after doing that, Models Vit releases their F-82, and now this is basically a potato, and it is what it is. But I went through and built them because I like to torture myself. Finally, the F-82E. This one was more or less built right out of the box, other than the decals. I did not use anything in the cockpit. I used kit canopies. Everything, all the bits and pieces on this are right out of the kit, and then I just used the Caracal decals. What was left over after I did the Night Fighter, I used the leftover pieces. This is a scheme that's in the instructions, but I was missing a number of stencils. So things like the flap markings were hand painted. Again, not the best job, but you know, I didn't really have any other option. And then some of the other warning bits and pieces around the kit were done straight from out of paint, I should say, because I didn't have enough stencils. So it's a little bit of a mix mash and to get it done, but I think it looks really good. And of course, having the two F-82s kind of sitting together on the shelf is a really cool look. Yeah, I have lessons to learn for the next one time I build one. I think building two at the same time was a bit ambitious because it's 4 cockpits, 4 fuselages, you know what I mean? There's a lot of work, 4 propellers. There's a lot of work that goes into them, and to do 2 at once, you know, it's a little much. You kind of lose your steam on one and you still got to go do another one, but it's done. Whether I build the other one or not, I don't know. This one also, I used all rockets, 25 rockets underneath. I don't know if it's a real load that was carried by a real F-82 or not. I've seen varying pictures of rockets carried on various points, and the instructions show all 5 hard points with rockets. So I went ahead and used that one just because I think it looks cool. And it probably would have been a loadout that they would have used earlier on in its life, being an interceptor. You know, they would have just come up and fired a whole bunch of, similar to the like F-94 Starfire and stuff, just to fire a mass of rockets into the formation of Soviet bombers, hoping to knock them down. I suspect this was a loadout that was planned. Whether it was ever actually carried in practice, I couldn't tell you, and it was never used in combat, obviously. But anyways, I think it looks pretty good. Again, as I mentioned in the time lapse, which if you want to see it, go ahead, and it should be coming out in the next couple of months. There's a lack of positive fit, and the rockets specifically had some issues. There's a few that are crooked. It's very difficult to get positive, like the mounting points are there's no positive location. So there's movement in all 3 axes, forward to back, side to side, and angles. So it just kind of floats there. So you do your best to line everything up. And then when the rockets actually sit on the stubs are slightly different lengths. So the angles all change, and there's no way to get the rocket perfectly lined up. So for an example, I've got this rocket right here that's a little crooked. You glue it on. If it starts to like slide after you've glued it on, there's really no going back. So I'm just going to live with it. It's not really noticeable outside of turning the model upside down. So 3-foot model, I'm okay with it. I think it looks cool. So that's going to wrap up the building of those 3 kits. I have the next 3 kits I'm going to introduce, which I will be doing next. I'll show you the next. I'm still working on the Lincoln Lancaster conversion. I'll show you where I am. I haven't really done a whole lot in the past month. I'll show you that in a little bit. I want to take a break here, go make sure the kids aren't killing each other upstairs, and I'll come back down and continue on with the next steps. I'm still working away on that. I never planned to finish the Lincoln conversion with these kits. I always knew it was going to be a longer term plan, but I should get that hopefully done in the next round. So stay tuned. It's going to be a little bit for me, but for you to be a split second, and you will be introduced to the next 3 kits I'm going to be building. And then we'll wrap up this video at the very end with the status of where I got those new kits, if I actually have time to work on them, as well as where I stand with the Lancaster Lincoln build. So let's, we'll hop right over, take a look at all of that here in a second. So as I just mentioned, we will take a quick look and a brief intro into the round of next kits I'm going to be building. As I stated, the Lancaster Lincoln conversion is still ongoing, and I plan to work on that through with the next 3. So it'll be 4 kits total, 3 new ones, plus that Lincoln Lancaster conversion. There's really no rhyme or reason to these kits. This one I picked. One of them I have decided to build as its commission build. I'm going to try to get it done in time for the fall. Another one I want to build because you'll see, there's a reason. And the last one was just a, hey, this is going to be cool. So I'll start with the, hey, this is going to be cool kit. And it is the Hasegawa B5N2 Kate bomber. I already have a Zero and a Gecko built, both from Tamiya. I figure this is a nice addition to my collection of Japanese World War II planes. And as I said, this is the Kate. This is the aircraft. I'm only doing it up as one of the aircraft involved in the attack on Pearl Harbor. I will be doing a full in-depth review of this at some point in the future, so keep your eye out on that, or for that, coming up. I'll go through the instructions after. I'm not going to open up too much. Well, you know what? I take that back. I did buy this as a used kit. I forget where now. Many moons ago. But yeah, let's get her opened up. We'll take a quick look at some of the pieces. It is Hasegawa, so it is considered to be one of the relatively better kits out there. Put this box over there so I have a place to stash pieces as I go through them. So just whatever I grabbed first here, sprue F includes parts for the engine. Parts 7 and 8 are off the sprue. I'll have to see what those are. But you've got your engine face. It looks like it is a 2-row radial, so you've got your back row with a firewall and a front row. Once you do some weathering and detailing painting, that will look really good. Some details here with the spark plug wiring and the gear case on the front, as well as your cowling here. You can see it's a nice molded cowling with your protectors to make sure nothing gets damaged in shipping. So that is sprue F. And then just gotta make sure I don't rip any parts off as I do this. We've got sprue A, which includes a lot of your cockpit parts. So it looks like you've got all your flaps, which, like I said, we'll look at the instructions here soon, how this all goes together. But you've got all of your flaps, inner and outer flaps, your cockpit floor, your main wheels, and your sidewall interior pieces, and then the actual fuselage halves. Looks decent. Again, very, very fine panel lines. Might not be the easiest to weather because the panel lines are so fine. However, that does mean it's highly accurate. The fabric covering on the rudder and the flaps looks really, really nice. Not overly done, highly realistic. Decent fine detail inside the cockpit. Should be relatively easy to brush paint and weather and make this look absolutely stunning. As I said, I will be going through a full review of this for the channel. So like I said, if you want a deeper review, keep your eye out on that. Sprue L has a lot more of your interior parts. You've got some bulkheads, some instrument panels, some radios and bits and bobs. And here it looks like you've got ammo drums for probably what would be the rear facing machine gun. I'm seeing some loose parts in here, so I want to make sure I don't lose anything. Sprue D includes the horizontal stabilizers as well as the propeller. And again, missing pieces. Hopefully they're in the bag. Sprue K. It looks like you've got some more interior pieces here. Looks like hard to tell what that part is. There's some rudder pedals and looks like a parachute, main landing gear, a tail wheel, some more interior parts, the tail hook. It looks like landing gear scissors, all that kind of stuff. Throttle quadrant, some more little detail works. Again, I'm missing some pieces on there. Sprue C has the entire wing as one solid chunk. Again, fabric covered control surfaces look nice, decent detailing. There's some scratches and stuff on the plastic. Hopefully that gets hid with some primer and doesn't transfer through into the actual plastic. Otherwise, it looks really good. No sink marks or anything. Everything looks really, really nice. Excited to see how this goes together. You've got sprue M, which, if I can get it off of here, includes your bomb, as well as some other parts, which I'm assuming is bomb related. But again, we'll take a look at the instructions here in a minute. And then, moving on, this is all trapped with the bag. You've got sprue B, which is the upper halves of the wing. And you can see there when it all fits together, you actually get some really nice locating tabs inside the wing here to allow the fuselage to slot in and make sure that fuselage sides don't get, squeezed in and creating a big gap. It's some nice, real positive location to make sure that fuselage wing joint is not a huge gap, which is always, always nice to see. But yeah, so that is that. And then inside the bag, I've got, I don't know, these look like possibly gear doors, a seat, some cowling halves, another seat, and some other little bits and pieces. Probably all those little pieces that broke off the sprues. Hopefully that's all of them. I'm not going to take them out of the bag. I actually, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to, I have a couple of these little Ziploc bags kicking around from other kits. I'm actually going to place everything that's in this bag, because I don't know if it's stuff that I need or not, or if it's just bits of flash. Like, I'm pretty sure this is just a piece of sprue that broke off, but for safety's sake, I'm gonna put it in there. Same with that. I don't know if that's a piece of flash or a piece of the kit, but it's gonna live in this little Ziploc bag, and then I know where everything is, and if I do need pieces, I don't lose them. So that's the main body of the kit. I'm gonna leave these wings out for a second. And you know what I'll do while I have it? Does it have a full sprue? It does have a full sprue layout, so you're able to figure out what pieces are actually missing. So on this sprue here, sprue K, that was that little radio box and flat piece. So that's those two pieces, which I know I have in the Ziploc bag. On the propeller, those are the gear doors, which I know I have inside that Ziploc bag. There was, oh, missing piece 11. 11 looks like it's the piece that ended up inside the bag. There's nothing missing off the fuselage sprue. And then on the one with the engine pieces, spinner doesn't get used. I'm missing the two halves of the cowling, which I know are in that Ziploc bag. So it looks like everything that is in this bag and I have. Okay, so we should be good. It doesn't look like I lost anything. Everything I need is there. Canopy bits over here. This bag has been opened already and nothing is missing, but a few pieces are very close to falling off. So as you'll see, you have the entire canopy as one solid piece if you want to build it closed. And then they go ahead and give you all of the little pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All the different sections. So you can build it with the canopy open if you choose to do that. Which I will most likely build it with the canopy open, because the main reason why I left out the wings is because we'll go over here in a second. I have an aftermarket wing fold kit, which we'll look at in a second. So moving on to the instructions, typical Hasegawa instructions. It's one giant kind of page that is all folded up, and you have to work your way through it as you go. So front page, some shots of the model. Again, this is back in the day when the shots were of actual built models and not 3D CAD work, so you get a good look of what is actually included in the kit. We move on to step one again. Here's your parts layout, so you can see what parts you're supposed to have, and as well as call outs for colors. We start in the cockpit as usual with aircraft. You can see it's a pretty complicated cockpit. There's a lot of stuff going on in here, and it's going to make for a really interesting look when it's all done. You've got all these little stands and you know, levers and stuff in here, lots of little parts, and I'm curious what, yeah, see, so the color call out is just, looks like it's Gansano, wow, Mr. Color. So the black squares is Mr. Color, the white square is Guns Aqueous Hobby. So you can color match a lot of this. So like you see here, it says the cockpit color 127 is just cockpit color, Nakajima. So it's curious kind of what that color is going to be. I'm gonna have to do some research and see. I do have it's an oil-based paint I have in one of the Model Master paints. I have that I forget the exact term, that metallic blue color that you see in some Japanese aircraft. So I'm curious if that's the color that's in here, because I really like that color, and I might just have to paint it that color just for fun, because I really like that color. But we'll see. I'll do some research. I'll see what's accurate, and I'll get as close as I can get for this. But you can see, for example, there's a decal for the seats to make it look like lightning holes, not lightning, lightening holes. There's decals for the radio screen fronts. There's decals for the instrument panel. You got optional decals for the instrument panel. Looks like one decal is all black and the other one's just instruments. I'll have to do some research on that to see what's what. But there's tons of color callouts on the side, lots of detail going on in here. There's those ammo drums, the bomb sight that lays to the side. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this. It's going to be exciting to get this built. So moving on to step 3, this was 1 and 2 is all cockpit assembly. 3, you start to glue the fuselage together. There's clear pieces in the side, little windows actually, which I didn't realize were there to get some light inside the cockpit. And then a machine gun for the back. Again, you've got optional decals here for the instrument face, depending on how you want to do it. The assembly of the gun, again, optional whether you want the gun stowed or out. I'm probably going to build it with the canopy open, so I'll probably have the gun out looking like it's being serviced. Step 4 is the main wing and horizontal stabilizers. You also see it's actually got clear wingtip lights, which is a nice touch. Oh, you remove a piece. Oh, I like that. You cut a little piece out of the wingtip if you want to use a clear spot, the clear piece. Nice touch. Those who want to go a little bit more can. Again, the flaps get installed here at the same time, and this is where you have the choice of installing them up or down. If you decide to glue them down, you open up the hole in the wing and you use the angled piece. If you decide to mount them straight, the straight pieces just fit in and lock them in place. You've also, you can see on the wing, you've got some strengthening plates here in the wing. They glue together. You get some extra so that the wings don't squeeze down in the middle. It's got some interior strengthening. Really nice touch considering this. Curious when this kit was actually made. What's the copyright? 2000. So I mean, it's a 24-year-old kit, and you can clearly see that they even back then they put some thought into some of this. Make sure it was a decent kit and easy to build. So that's step 4 is all fuselage to wings, horizontal stab, flaps. Step 5, you're assembling the lower parts. So you've got the landing gear. It doesn't look like it gives you the option to build it with the gear up. You could do it if you'd like, but the gear doors aren't really set up that way, so you'll have to kind of modify things. But the landing gears go in with the wheels, and the gear doors get glued on. Under here, you've got part of the bomb mount going in. There's also the window that goes underneath that gets mounted. So be careful with painting. That makes sure you mask that kind of stuff off. And some of this can maybe be installed after the fact if it's a different color. So you can kind of play with the instruction order a little bit and build what you need. Tail hook, tail wheel. And down here in step 6 is where you start working on the canopy. The engine all gets assembled. Again, quite a bit going into the engine here. You've got that firewall area, all of the engine components, all that stuff, the exhaust stacks, everything getting put together, propeller with all of the pieces on the front to give it the details. All of that all gets assembled. And again, you can kind of play with the order based off of painting and how well the fit is. So you can install all of that. Like you might be able to mount this piece to the fuselage, and all of this gets added, you know, after the fact, after painting, just to make sure you don't get overspray and stuff. But that's something you can look at, you know, based on your own. If you're brush painting, it's not a problem. If you're airbrushing, you can pick and choose. Also note there's a little window that goes inside here that splits the forward cockpit from the rear cockpit, so just make sure that gets installed. You don't forget about that. And again, for the canopies, you decide whether you want to do the full canopy or the pieces. And again, you have to drill a small hole for the antenna if you choose to go down that route. And then you've got all the pieces that go in. And then down here is a detail shot. It shows you how all the canopies all get stacked. So 14 goes over 15, and then you literally have 4 of them all stacked together here at the back if you choose to go that way. And it shows you how all the canopies are all supposed to be mounted so that they all roll out and slide down the way they're supposed to. So again, keep an eye on that. Make sure you get your painting order done properly so you don't get yourself stuck in a corner. And that's about it, really. 6 steps. There's a lot going on in each step, but there's only 6 steps in the construction of this. And then you go over to this side and you have the painting lines or the diagrams. And this is, there's 2 schemes included. I believe both are from the attack on Pearl Harbor. The first aircraft here is from the Akagi in the first wave. And this aircraft here is the Soryu in the first wave. It's interesting too, Hasegawa is a Japanese company, and it says the first wave commander's aircraft Pearl Harbor December 8th, 1941. Most people who know their World War II history know Pearl Harbor as December 7th of 1941, but that's because of the international date line. So while it was the morning of December 7th when the attack happened local time in Pearl Harbor, it was December 8th Japan time. So yeah, that's always interesting. And then this is the commander's aircraft for the Akagi's first wave, and this is another just a regular pilot from the first wave from the Soryu. As well, it's nice with the way they do this. It does say this marking chart has been reduced by 70% in the side view and 40% in the top view. So you can photocopy these and enlarge them and get full-size plans if you wanted to make painting guides, which I've done in the past, where you actually use the instructions and you cut out all these little things and you tape them to the side of the fuselage and you get yourself a mask to do the fuselage. So the actual painting guide here, it looks like it's the nose section on both has black, which is why I said it's always possible to leave the cowling off and put it on afterwards, because it's a different color, and the color break is well, it's inside the different color, so there's no weird camo lines that go across, so you can always mount everything after. But the front should be black. 33 is flat black. The overall aircraft is dark green, Japanese dark green, which I believe I have a color for in here somewhere. I believe I have the Japanese dark green somewhere. I gotta look for it. Anyways, I'm 99% sure I already have the Japanese color from when I did the Zero a little while ago. Then the underside is called silver. So it's actually got a silver underside. It looks like it's an unpainted underside, because then the ailerons are actually weird, painted green. That's interesting. The fabric colored ailerons are painted green on the bottom, even though... That's interesting. I'll have to do some research on that. The bottom looks like it's supposed to be like an aluminum or bare metal, but then the bottom of the fabric covered elevators and ailerons are green. But it might be a primer that's put on the fabric. That's pretty cool. It's a neat little touch, and I'm gonna have to look into the research on that and see how that works. But anyways, yeah. And then I believe this one also has red. Yes, it has a completely red tail, which is pretty interesting, and is one of the reasons I kind of want to do this. It's got red horizontal stabilizers, a red vertical stabilizer with the green and the silver and the black, and then it's got yellow markings on the tail and everything. So it's with the green, that's really cool with the green fabric. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be doing. A, it doesn't have the little blotches, which makes it easier, but B, it's got a really cool paint scheme, to be perfectly honest. It's right, that's the box art, is the aircraft I plan on doing, which is really, really cool, I have to say. Gotta do some research though on the markings just to make sure it's accurate, because I'm a little turned off by the green. Even on the bottom, it says that the horizontal stabs supposed to be red, but that the fabric covered areas is green. Well, over here, the top of it's painted red. So I just have to do a little bit of looking and see what that looks like. But anyways, other than that, the next aircraft, Scheme 2, kind of similar overall, green, silver, black. It's got, let's see, color 133 earth. So it's got like a darker brown splotching over the green. And then again, I believe it's yellow markings on the tails. I don't have the decal sheets out, but like I said, I'll do an in-depth review of these a little later on. So that is the kit itself. Now I also have the Edward masking set, which I picked up a while ago for that, which is going to help me. I don't have those for every kit anymore, but it does help. However, I do have this wing fold kit, and I don't even remember if this came with the kit or if I bought this after the fact. It is Wolfpack, which I have a couple of their products before. I don't think I've used any of their products before, but I think it's gonna be cool, again, being able to fold up the wing, take up a lot like smaller space on the shelf, which is always good when I have a limited shelf space. It's great to have that ability. So you have a few parts here, the wing folds themselves, and then you have the stands, or the braces, I should say, that hold the wings once it's folded. So it shows you for cutting the top wing. So you can see there's a panel line here, and then there's a bit of a hinge, so I have to cut along that panel line, and then I have to scrape off these detailing bits here, or the hinges. That gets scraped off. And then on the bottom wing, I cut along the same line. However, I'm supposed to leave the one line on the outer section of the wing. So it cuts off right outboard of the flaps. Shouldn't, oh, look at that. You know what? There's a cut line Hasegawa has molded a cut line into their wing. If you decided to go down this road, it's actually included. So that's going to make life cutting this super, super easy when they've molded in the cut lines. And this is why I kept the wings out, because then we look through here. And you'll also notice you need to thin down the plastic after you've cut it to make the wing folds sit nice and tight. The good news with that is you can play with the fit, and you can test it and sand it and test it and sand it, make sure it all works. But yeah, you do that, and then here on the back you see it shows with a bit of the finished look how the wing folds themselves are supposed to be mounted together. They actually have the little teeth that mesh together and get glued, and then you have to drill some holes in the fuselage, which I'll probably do obviously before painting. You can see it lines up pretty nicely on the side of the fuselage with the canopy, and you have the piece to measure the thickness and in the wing, and you can play with it a little bit when you bring it in. But yeah, that makes life really easy to do. And then yeah, so it doesn't look like a terribly difficult one, especially with the cut lines being molded in it, but I do plan on using this on this kit, and just like I said, it'll fit on the shelf a lot nicer when it takes up a smaller size. So that is that. Shouldn't be a very hard, other than modifying the wing, this shouldn't be a very difficult build to work on. And I'll get the Lincoln box out of the way. The other one, I will show you that one last. The next one I'll show you here is this. It's a bit of a hefty boy. It is the, I'll turn off my phone so it doesn't beep and annoy you anymore, or annoy me. It's the Trumpeter 1/24th scale Hurricane, and this is kind of out of my wheelhouse. This is not something I normally build for myself, which is because I'm not building it for myself. I am building it for someone else has requested me to do this in a very specific scheme, and my plan is to complete this by September. So apologies, took a sip of coffee. Yeah, the plan is to have this completed by September. So I'm going to start building very soon in the next couple of days. And obviously, if I run into a place where I know this is not, that I'm behind on building and there's a chance that I'm not going to finish in time, I'm going to put the other kits aside and solely focus on this one to get this one done on time. The other side of it is 3 of the colors that I have to paint this on, the green, the brown, and there's going to be one wing black, is the same colors I have to paint the Lincoln. So if I can get them to about the same point when I'm painting this, I can also paint the Lincoln, which kind of allows me to move a little bit forward. So that's the plan. Let's take a look at this. I have actually built 2 of these Trumpeter Hurricanes in the past. One of them is hanging right up above my head here, a Mark IID. And then I did another one up as a Mark IV. Actually, the other one I built is the same client I'm building this one for. So I'm actually painting this one up as, obviously not the kit decals. I have aftermarket decals, which I'm not going to pull out because that's not the point right now, but it's going to be painted up as Willie McKnight's Mark II, specifically the aircraft flown by Vintage Wings of Canada, which is a Mark 12, which will involve me modifying the build a little bit for us to add. The Mark 12 had 12 machine guns. It has the normal 8 inboard, but it also has, well, 4 inboard on each wing and 2 outboard. So it has 6 in each wing. So I'm going to have to modify it and include the outer barrels, which won't be too hard. I'm not going to open up the plastic on these because I don't want to lose anything, but it's a huge plane. I mean, the wingspan here is 1.5 feet at least. So I have basically going to build this wheels down, cockpit open, but I'm going to have the gun bays closed, and I'm going to have the inner guns taped over and painted over the way they would be on the real aircraft, because I want to make it look realistic. Like I said, it's the green and brown on top, and then the bottom is white on one half and black on the other. And then it'll be finished relatively clean the way the actual aircraft owned by Vintage Wings is, in a semi-gloss finish. I'm not going to do flat, and I'm not going to do gloss. I'm going to do a semi-gloss just to make it look a little bit more like a warbird that is flying. So the wings are really, again, the detail on this kit is great. I don't know how much you can see through the plastic, but there's tons of fine rivet detail everywhere, panel line detail. If you really wanted to make this look used and dirty, it would be really easy to do. It also includes clear forward cowlings in case you want to see the engine, which I'm not going to use. And then here is the canopy and whatnot. I have an aftermarket instrument panel, which I may have showed you in previous what's on my desk when I got it. But I'm going to use that on this as well. So then the next sprue here, which I don't even know if sprue A has your 2 fuselage halves, as well as the firewall and some of your landing gear bits, the actual landing gear bay, and some of the small pieces, as well as the, I believe that's an oxygen tank. It might be an air tank actually for the brakes, an accumulator for the brakes that lives down in the wheel well. So that's sprue A. Here are all the machine guns for in the wings, which is where I'm going to be able to modify this a little bit. I'm actually going to cut the barrels off and mount those into the wings to make those extra gun barrels in the outboard wings look right. We've also got some exhaust stacks here. I don't know what those are. I'll take a look at the instructions here in a bit and figure that out. Some other bay here, you've got sprue P, includes the actual gun bay frames, spinner, radiator, front and back, your ammo runs, which I'm not going to use, your leading edges that have your gun ports, which like I said, I want to tape over and paint red like the real one. Up here, you've got your gun bay covers, your lower carb intake, your lower cowling, I believe that's a lower cowling. And then you've got your engine mounts as well as the antenna piece. And here we have sprue H, which includes your, I think those are ailerons. Ailerons, bits of the flap, your gear doors, your main gear, your wheels, your radiator tub, the door, and some other little bits and bobs in the step and the hoses for inside the radiators. Here you've got sprue G, and this is a lot of cockpit stuff. You've got rudder halves, seat, oil tank, bunch of cockpit pieces, the bits for the instrument panel, some of the cockpit, the sidewalls and framing, rudder pedals, floor, because the Hurricane doesn't really have a floor, the rear armor, some more, this is the oil tank, some seat adjustments, the control yoke, a lot of little bits and pieces from the cockpit. Actual rubber tires, which I don't know how I feel about, but I will use because I don't really have a choice. It does include photo etch. Excuse me. It does include photo etch for a few little cockpit pieces, as well as a film instrument panel, which I will not be using. And then here we have 2 separate sprues that have fuel tanks, horizontal stabs, elevators, the rest of the flaps, as well as the parts for your engine. I'm not going to show the engine, but I will build it, paint it black, and stick it in there just for the sake of saying it's in there. But I'm not going to go through any real effort at detailing it because it doesn't need to be, because he will never see it. And then just because it's here and I wanted, to show you, I have this here, which is this Yahoo YAHU from Poland, and that is the beautiful instrument panel that I will be using. That is like photorealistic. It's stupid how good that thing is. So that's what I'm going to be using inside the cockpit, just to make it look as realistic as possible for the client. And then the instructions here, typical trumpeter instructions, a little booklet as usual. You get your full parts layout. Start with the construction assembly, seat onto the bulkhead along with your seat belt and your cockpit frame, some more photo etch that goes on the sides, and some bits and levers and stuff, which I will use. And then over here we've got instrument panel going together, which, like I said, I'm using the aftermarket one, and your oil tank. Oil tank? Yes, oil tank. And then in step 5, you're moving on to the engine. Again, you get an engine. It's not super detailed. You could go crazy with it and make a really, really nice looking engine for this thing if you chose to, but I'm not. 6 and 7, you're continuing to work on that engine. Step 8, you build up the engine mounts and the firewall. And then you're on to horizontal stabs and elevators. Step 11 and 12, inside of the fuselage, the different pieces that all need to go in there. And then step 13, you're slamming the fuselage together, including the firewall, engine, and cockpit. Get that mounted. Step 14, you're doing some more work. You've got the little door on the side. You've got your cowlings going on, your gun sight if you choose to install one. If you're doing a World War II one, you will. I think I'm going to use it in the modern one as well. I have to get that idea from the client. Tail pieces, the tail feathers are going on, including mass balances and some lights. Again, be careful with this stuff so you don't get yourself in a corner when it comes to painting. Step 15, you're moving on to the wings. Again, it includes things like this oil tank and fuel tanks. You're never, ever going to see those in the kit, but they're there if you choose to. I'll probably just build them, stick them in, and cover it all up and only paint what you're actually going to need to paint. Wheel well will need to be done up properly as it will be visible on the final kit. Over here, you got the gun bays going together. Again, I'm not going to go too crazy with that because you're not going to see it. It's going to be inside the wing and you're never going to notice it. So here you've got the gun, and it looks like those tubes were part of the gun, and I don't know why. It looks like a tube or something. Like I said, I got to figure out how that's all going to work on the final build because I need to use the barrels in the outer wing sections for those extra guns, which I will figure out later. So I'm not going to assemble any of these gun bays. I'm just going to leave them all out completely, modify the wing for the extra machine guns, put the covers on it, and just be done with it. You've also got the landing lights, which has a full-blown light and everything in it. Same with the wingtips. You've got the bulb and the clear piece, which I'll probably install after the painting is done. Step 20, you're doing the ailerons as well as some more stuff inside the wheel wells and the flaps. They do come separate, but they don't really be able to be mounted extended, but at least they look like separate pieces. 21, you're squeezing all that together, getting the fuselage and wing mated. Step 22, you start working on the landing gear. Step 23, you're working on the radiator, and again, pretty in-depth build on the radiator. It even includes the central core of an oil cooler, even though it's squeezed between two pieces of plastic and you're never even going to know it's there. They actually put the oil cooler through the middle of the radiator the way it is on the real Hurricane. And then over here to step 24, you're installing some more of these bits. You're getting the carb intake installed, some more pieces in the landing gears done, tail wheel, you're installing the radiator tub and all that other stuff under there. And then over here on step 25, you're doing the propeller. There will be exhaust stacks, the landing gears, you've got the step if you choose to put it down, all that stuff. And then the final step here, you're actually putting the propeller on and some little scoops and the canopy and all the little bits that go on the canopy, and you can make it open. So like I said, I'm going to build it with the wheels down and the cockpit open so you'll be able to look in and just see all that amazing, glorious detail inside the cockpit that I want to be able to show off. The kit provides you with 2 sets of decals. Section Scheme A here is a Hurricane Mark 1 from 257 Squadron, England, 1940. You've got a red and white spinner, and then it's got the duck egg blue underneath. It calls it sky, but it's not sky. Sky is more of a greeny color. This blue color is the duck egg blue that existed for a short period of time with the RAF at the beginning of the Battle of Britain, and it's got the same duck egg blue band on the rear fuselage. Here you can actually see it's sky. That's proper sky. That's duck egg blue. So you can clearly tell that they were reusing an earlier profile, and they used the proper color here, but the wrong color here. Or the right color, I should say, but the wrong color call out, and this is a legacy. Anyways, the blue color is duck egg blue. It was a short-lived color that the RAF used before they went to the sky color. And you can see how they painted one wing black. That was supposed to aid in identifying friend or foe for ground gunners during the Battle of Britain. So those are the markings for that. And then Scheme B is a Mark 1 Hurricane from 87 Squadron. Again, you'll see it's painted duck egg blue on the bottom. It does not have the band, and it does not have the black wing. So this is probably early Battle of Britain, especially with the big, large roundels like that. This is probably early Battle of Britain, especially with that fin flash the way it is. Very early Battle of Britain scheme, and then it would have transitioned to this late Battle of Britain as then they continued to transition as the war went on, and they learned what worked and what didn't. So that is that. As I said, this is my main focus on these kits. This Hurricane is the one I need to have a timeline on, so I'm going to do my best to get it finished in that timeline, and all the other kits will be sacrificed if I need to sacrifice to get that built. Then the last one I'm going to be working on, which is a bit of it might be a surprise, it might not be a surprise, it is the Monogram B-17F. Now, this has been a kit that's been sitting on my shelf for a while. I had a plan, and the plan changed over time. So this initially was I was going to build as an F, and it was going to need a lot of work because this kit is very lacking in detail. And then I managed to get the Hong Kong Models F, which you probably would have seen. I've also already got a mega review of all of these 148 scale P17s. I'll put the link up to that right now. So there will not be a full-blown review of this one because it's already been done. But I bought that Hong Kong Models F, and so I decided to use that for the final F, which means I could use this for my other plan, which was making a YB40. My initial plan was to modify a G into the YB40 and backdate the nose, because everything else on the Monogram G works for a YB40, sort of. This actually works better. And so my long-term plan on this, as I said, is to make it into a YB40. Now this I purchased secondhand. It's already been kind of started, and it has a lot of pieces off the sprues. I have an entire Ziploc bag of pieces here, and I have a window that's already been glued in, and the fuselage has been messed up. So I'm gonna have to solve that problem later. So I've got here the Paragon YB40 conversion. This is the long out of production Paragon kit that includes the chin turret and the dual waist guns, including the ammo boxes. It includes over here the pieces that go in the nose, the ammo runs for the waist guns, all the extra machine gun barrels, and the top turret for the rear half. And there's the plug that goes in where the radio operator's window usually is for that second turret. And then I have all the clear pieces here. They're starting to go yellow, but I'm still going to use them. So I have that. And then, as you can clearly see, there's zero detail on the inside of this Revell kit. This side has the windows glued in, including this window, as I said, which has been completely demolished. The other ones aren't too bad, and I can live with them. And I'm going to move that over here because those are the clear parts. Now this was... There's a bit of I go into this in the in-depth review I do, but there's a bit of a controversy between Monogram and Revell about the kit being copied, where it looks like Revell released, or Monogram released theirs first, and then Revell took their molds and modified them to get to this. I'd have to look at I can't even remember the details now. One of the companies copied the other, clearly copied the other. And what we're left with is this kit, which is not the easy build. The cockpit is a weird drop in and it leaves some really ugly seams. As I said, there's no detail whatsoever on the inside of the fuselages. So I have a plan to hide some of this. But here you get the lower wing with the turbo superchargers, your main wheels, some extra machine guns. And here's the other side of the lower wing, which you have the bombs, the external bomb racks, as well as the turbochargers for the sides of the wheel wells. And then you've got your upper wing sprue. Here's your pilot seats and the wheel wells, which are nothing. Then your other upper wing, which includes the instrument panel, some landing gear bits, and the horizontal stabilizers. And then, as I mentioned, all my other bits and pieces are here inside a Ziploc bag. I'm not going to go into too much more in terms of review of this because I've already done it, and I put the link up earlier, so you can go over there if you want to see it. And that is that. I will take a quick look at the instructions. And it gives you a good idea of how little goes on in here. So you can see step 1 was gluing all those windows into that right side fuselage. That's as far as the previous owner got to. Step 2, the bomb aimer section. And then you'll see that's it. You've got a floor for the cockpit and a floor for the bomb aimer, and there's nothing in between. Okay, so as I was saying, you got a floor for a bomb aimer area, and then you've got the floor for the cockpit, and there's nothing in between. There's no floor between this piece and this bulkhead. There's no navigator's table. There's no seat. There's no sidewall detail. It's just a hole, and you can kind of see here. I'll zoom in just a little bit. And you can really see here, this shows you how little there is. There's the bomb aimer section, there's a hole, there's the cockpit, there's nothing else back here. There's nothing. There's nothing inside the radio operator squint. There's nothing. It's just empty space, no detail at all. So it has some serious limitations in terms of the detail. So My plan, I also have, again, if you watch that mega review on my 148 scale B17s, you'll see that I also have the Pro Modeler B17. And the Pro Modeler kit includes a number of crew member pieces. Now, yeah, remember a number of crew member pieces as well as some extra interior detail for the rear fuselage. So my plan to effectively hide this lack of detail, I'm going to include one of the figures standing in the nose section, or sitting in the nose section on the seat at the bomb aimer station, which will effectively hide everything beyond that. You're not going to be able to see really anything past that character sitting there because everything else behind it we blocked. That's going to hide the lack of detail in the nose. I'm going to put the two pilot figures in the seats, and that will hide a ton of the lack of detail in the cockpit and everything that exists behind it and block the view inside those windows. The upper radio operator's window, I don't have to worry about because it's being plugged with a turret because it's going to be a YB40. I will build it flying, so I'll mount a stand through the bomb bay, and the landing gear will be retracted. That's going to hide all kinds of detail there. You're not going to see the lack of detail in the wheel wells or anything because the wheels will be retracted. The ball turret will be installed as normal. You're not going to be able to see any of that. The waist gunner positions, it's also going to have a double machine gun sticking out of each waist gunner, and I'm actually going to put hopefully both waist gunners in the fuselage as well, which again will hide that lack of detail. So I'm just going to use, guys, the pieces from the Pro Modeler kit to block the view of everything inside the fuselage, make it look busy, but also just hide everything. So I'm hoping at the end of the day that will solve my problem and it will not be an issue. So then, other than that, you can see you put together a little bit of the interior detail. The ball turret's gonna be fun because it's a really crappy ball turret model. I'm gonna really work on that. Luckily, I can probably install it after the fact. I'll figure that out later. The upper turret goes together. Again, not a big problem. And then the cockpit all gets put together. I'll clean up all those seams, get all these windows glued in. As I said, the plug will go back here. I'll have the different nose section. Landing gear will be retracted, so it'll hide all those details. The engines, I'll do my best to paint them up and weather them. Same with the props. And then everything gets assembled. And then I'm not installing the exterior bombs, and it'll be mounted and put on a stand. The decals, I'm going to use, I have the Heavenly Bodies decal set, which is what I was using partially for the my F model, but I'm going to use some of the pieces out of this to do some of the markings on my YB40. I'm also going to use my Cricket to make some masks in order to get the final few details that I need. I'm probably going to do this Tampa Tornado, which is the standard green over gray. It's going to have the roundel and it's going to have the markings and everything on the tail. Like I said, I'll do a lot of that out. Some of it will be decals out of that Heavenly Body set. Some of them will be masks that I want to use to paint the different markings on it. So that's my plan for that kit. It's ambitious, I know, but I'm hopeful that I can get to it. It's not quite as much work as the Lincoln conversion, but it's enough that it'll make for an interesting kit. So that's my plan for the next 4 kits. So as we're probably already pushing quite a ways into this video in terms of how long it is, let's wrap it up here. I will do a quick status update on where I managed to get with these kits, and then we'll move on, and that'll be the end of the video, actually. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll take a quick look at where I managed to get with these kits. So here we are, everybody, at the desk, taking a look at the current status of those kits. Right off the bat, the Lincoln, I haven't actually done anything with it since probably last month. I might have done a bit of sanding around the bomb bays. I put a little bit more putty in here. I think after this next round of sanding, I'm going to hit it with another coat of primer, really get a look of where this thing is in terms of cleanup, hit the wings as well, and I think I'm going to get started. I might even be ready to start kind of that next stage of painting. So we'll figure that one out. The big one I've been working on is the B17, mostly because I'm into it and I really want it. This has been a project that's been sitting on my project bench for, God, at least 12 years, possibly longer. You know what? I think this goes all the way back to me living before I even moved out of the house. So I think this is probably 16 or 7, at least 15 years. Let's put it that way. I'd say at least 15 years that this has been a project that I've had planning. So it's the Revell, which you would have seen the intro already to all these kits. So I'm not going to go too in depth in this because I would have told you the plan already. But it is the Revell B17F that I'm converting into the YB40. So far, I've chopped out that radio gunner section, the radio operator's compartment with the upper gun. Cut that chunk out. I've glued this resin chunk into the one side. It's pretty much in where I need to be. There's a little bit of cleanup around the top here. It's just a little high, but these edges are nice. So once I get the fuselage glued together and I really get that super glued into place, a little tiny bit of sanding and cleanup, and that should be ready to go. So I've got that done. I've started pulling off a lot of little bits and pieces. And then I painted the interior green along with things like the cockpit and all the little bulkheads and stuff I need to start fleshing this out. So it's kind of, you're very limited with the steps because first I had to get this done, then I had to paint this. The next step, I'm going to start finishing up the interior, the cockpit detailing and all that kind of stuff, get the seats glued in, get the two pieces glued into place. And then from there, I can start figuring out the figures because I am using the figures, which I do believe I also mentioned in the intro video. I'm using some of the figures from the Pro Modeler kit to block some of the views. So for example, in the front where there's no detail, I'm gonna have a gunner standing right there with a holding a machine gun, and it's gonna block your view back. Same with the waist guns, even though it's also got a double machine gun, which takes up more space, but I wanna put a gunner in there just to block your ability to see that there's no interior detail at all on this thing. That's my plan. We'll see how well it turns out. It also has enough resin barrels that I can mount all the breeches on the insides and then mount the barrels after the fact, which will also be nice for painting. So we'll figure all that out as I go. So otherwise, like I said, all the little bits and pieces are painted. So my next step, I'm gonna start working on the cockpit, get all that detail done, the weathering, the black wash, the highlights, get all that ready to go, get it all glued in, figure that out, seats, gunner, nose, and then I'll worry about the waist gunners after. And once I get the waist gunner situation sorted out, other than that and the ball turret, I can glue this fuselage together. And then from there, it's just exterior cleanup, sanding, figuring out the little details. The other thing I have to remember to do is the waist guns on these, the doors slit inwards. So I'm gonna have to get those doors from somewhere. I think I have a set in, I don't know. It might be the ones that came with the kit. I think I have a set of clear ones that came with the kit. And I'm gonna have to clean this up a little bit and make sure I mount those doors on the inside so it looks like they've slid open. So, I mean, you might not ever see the detail, but I want to add that anyway since I do have the parts. So little things like that I just got to remember to do. And then once I get this fuselage glued together, it's just clean up, sanding, puttying, getting the wings assembled, and then paint. And then I'll have to figure out markings because all of the markings I have to come up with on my own. I'll probably do some custom masking with my Cricut and paint on some of the fuselage codes and all that kind of stuff as I go. So that is the status of the YB40. I'll start off the next one with the what am I building? The Japanese one, the Val, Kate. I don't remember. Kate. There you go. See, so it's the Kate. So I've started some basic assembly. I'm getting to the point where I can paint the interior color. So a lot of little doodads and stuff have been glued on to the center part of the cockpit floor. There's one piece I've glued on the side, and then there's all these little pieces here. And all of these all get painted up the same interior color. I was really, really looking forward to painting that metallic blue color that some Japanese aircraft are. This one is not that color. It's a pale green. So my plan is to paint, I actually have like a pale green somewhere in here from something. Yeah, there it is there. So I was gonna use the RAF interior green and then just mix a little bit of this like 50-50 with this pale green, just change the color up a little bit. So when I paint the Hurricane cockpit, the RAF green, whatever I have left, I can mix up a custom color and paint this in that custom color. That is my plan. And I'm gonna paint up all of this sort of exterior of this cockpit around the here, all this stuff will all get painted up. And then the canopies I'll just paint up with a whatever color. If it's off a little bit, it's off a little bit. But that's the plan. So this is pretty much ready to go for paint. I was just waiting until I got the Hurricane ready to go. So the Kate is to the point. This is the one I started the YB40 first, then I worked on this for a little bit, then a little bit on the Hurricane, and then I painted the YB40. So this is ready for paint. I'm just waiting on the Hurricane, and the status on the Hurricane is it's just this. This is all I managed to get done. I've cut out some of the cockpit parts, and then I was looking at, I'm trying to match it to the vintage wings aircraft, so I have to make sure I'm painting the interior parts the right color. So for the most part, all of this gets painted aluminum, and then I'll pick out some details, and then this and this get painted interior green along with the insides of the cockpit and some more of those pieces that go inside there. So I'm just prepping some stuff for paint right now. My next step will be going through the instructions and cutting out the rest of the parts I need in for the inside of the cockpit, and then figuring out what is what, and then I'll paint those parts the RAF interior green, including the insides of the fuselage. What's left of that color I'll mix up for the Kate, and then the next step will be painting these pieces aluminum. All of these frames, the wheel bays, all that kind of stuff will get painted aluminum. Then I can put those aside. So that's where I am right now. It's only been a couple of days that I've been working on this, so it hasn't been too crazy. But yeah, so that's the status of that. No other new products or anything to show off at this point. So I am going to wrap this video up, but stay tuned. I do have those time-lapse videos coming out. The Mosquito should be out, part 2 of the time-lapse, so that should be out in the next little while. And then the other 3, the 2 F-82 kits will be, the 2 F-82 kits will be out right after that. And then we'll just go back to the standard. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you all next time.